Hello everyone. Let me begin my today's lecture with the picture of James Cameron, a famous Hollywood movie director, in the company of members of a Native American community. This picture was made in the time he was making his celebrated movie Avatar, which narrates the fiction story of human colonization of the planet Pandora, in the process of which the whole civilization of the local people of Navi, with its unique culture and religion, perishes. It is well known that Cameron took as a foundation for his work the history of American Indians, who suffered tremendously from the European colonization of the 16th-19th century. As these peaks testify, the indigenous peoples of Amazonia suffered from Portuguese colonial administration. The Australian Aborigines were forcefully relocated to barren lands while their territories were captured by the British. Or the people of Eurasian North, like the Nenets, suffered from the Russian and Soviet projects of modernization. Indigenous religions were also suppressed as a result of the advance of more developed civilizations and globalizing religions. For instance, indigenous religion of Jews disappeared under the pressure of monotheism. Original religious cults of the Slavs ceased to exist after the Rus accepted Orthodox Christianity in the 10th century. Or polytheistic beliefs of the Arabs perished after Muhammad established Islam. Today's lecture will attempt to answer the following questions. What is indigenous religion? What are essential characteristics of indigenous religions? What kind of regional indigenous religious traditions survive in the world? What is Tengrism? And is it traditional in Kazakhstan and other Central Asian countries? And why do indigenous religions become popular nowadays? So first and foremost, we need to determine the basic term for this lecture. What is indigenous religion? The conception of indigenous may be applied to species of animals or plants, people, cultures, languages, and beliefs native to a particular geographical region. Indigenous, we can also use the terms native, primal. Religion, thus, is the entire set of religious beliefs and practices that belong in some distinctive way to an indigenous group. According to some estimates, from 200 to 300 million people today follow indigenous religions. Of course, these estimates cannot be accurate as indigenous religions do not exist in institutionalized form, and thus it is almost impossible to count their followers. Many of these followers combine indigenous religion with one of the world religions. Most of indigenous beliefs are autochthonous or native to the areas inhabited by people practicing these beliefs. Yet there are some religions characterized as indigenous that were carried by people to some other areas of the world, usually due to forced relocation. Among these relocated indigenous religions are Voodoo or Santeria, the synthetic religion of Caribbean brought by slaves from Africa. Thus, European colonialism and Christianity directly influenced the geography of indigenous religions. One element of Haitian religion is especially well known in today's pop culture, the zombie, or a reanimated dead body which can follow the orders of a voodoo priest or other beings. Although undead beings are common for many other indigenous religions throughout the world, zombie became especially famous. What makes indigenous religion different from other ones? There are special characteristics that distinguish indigenous religions from transnational religions. For example, intimate connection with native bioregion through geographically localized ritual complex. Developed ritual practice that involves the whole community and instill collective memories in people's minds. Oral way of transmission of mythology, religious worldview and values. No written tradition. Survival in the face of human assault, natural disaster or deprivation as a conscious concern. Indigenous religions are mainly based on belief that natural world is full of spirits who control weather, harvest, success of hunt, and may inflict misfortunes, disasters, and illnesses. Once it concerns indigenous religions, it is impossible to separate system of beliefs and ritual practices apart from subsistence, kinship, language, governance, and landscape. The connection of the indigenous religions with the landscape is especially characteristic. The peculiar features of the local territory is usually sacralized and become important elements of the local belief system. There's something like mountain Kailash is important for Tibetan and Tibetan Buddhism, or mountain Beluga in Altai is worshipped by local population, both Altaians and Kazakhs and Mongols. Lake Baikal is important for the Buryats living around it, or Teletskaya Lake for Altaians. The interconnectedness of the ecologically and geographically defined area with the local community and the spirits they worship is shown on this chart. Each element of this triangle is indispensable in the eyes of the followers of indigenous religion. It means that indigenous religions are necessarily communal, being based on a community rather than individual person. A community of faithful, not individual believer, is the sole actor in the system of relationships with supernatural. This communal nature of native religions, their emphasis on spirit and nature worship, problematizes their relationships with the transnational or global religions. And the survival of local beliefs, for the most part, depends on what degree of tolerance the global religions allows. World religions may be classified into exclusive and inclusive ones. Abrahamic religions are exclusive in the sense that they don't allow faithful to adhere to previous beliefs, labeling them as paganism, idol worship, and superstitions. Still, some elements of paganism historically penetrated doctrines of transnational religions. Sometimes it is hard to draw a clear dividing line between indigenous and transnational religions. Hinduism and Chinese religion can be qualified as indigenous religions. In many other cases, indigenous and transnational religions come to coexistence, partial recognition, and influencing each other. Look at these illustrations of the influences global religions received from the local beliefs. Such important elements of Christianity as the worship of Mother Mary or the idea of Trinity may betray the influences of polytheistic beliefs or fertility cults. The worship of the Black Stone of Kaaba or Al-Hajar al-Aswad traces its origin to pre-Islamic times and was a part of some older religion of the Arabs. To understand how indigenous religions survive in geographical terms, one should look at this map, where surviving native religions are marked with purple. It's easy to notice that native religions are still well represented in the polar regions of Eurasia and Northern America, as well as in Amazonia, Australia, and especially Sub-Saharan Africa. So let's start our discussion of the specific regional forms of native religions with Africa. Africa is the home for majority of the followers of indigenous religions, around 100 million. Indigenous beliefs take prominent place in Sub-Saharan Africa and Madagascar. Most African religions believe in supreme God or deity, in some cases goddess, which is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, transcendent, immanent, benevolent being like Olodumare of the Yoruba in Nigeria or Mulungu of the Bantu people of East Africa. However, in some cultures, supreme beings may possess negative characteristics, cruel, fiery, vindictive, manifested in natural calamities. The belief of such a powerful supreme deity facilitated Christianization of sub-Saharan Africans and have led to a syncretic blending of the local beliefs and Protestant Christianity. Supreme being is a very popular but not ubiquitous area in Africa, but every African religion incorporates belief in spirits. Spirits usually serve intermediaries between people and supreme beings. Before we continue, look at this map where indigenous religions are highlighted with this yellowish color. So spirits usually serve intermediaries between people and supreme beings. Orisha, a class of spirits in Yoruba tradition, come from deceased humans. Orisha may serve as messengers of Olodumare and in some sense are his manifestations. Spirits can be good or bad, and people can win and keep the favor of these spirits through proper behavior or rituals of propitiation. Like in other shamanist traditions, African shamans can contact spirits and ward off evil influences of malevolent ghosts. So shamans in Africa are often viewed as healers. The religions of Native Americans is as well accommodates the idea of a supreme deity. Iroquois inhabited eastern parts of North America and created the most advanced civilization of the continent. Their religious tradition places one deity, the Great Spirit, at the center of the universe. The Great Spirit is beyond understanding for common people. After a person's death, it is he who judges his or her immortal soul and punishes those who fail to obey him. Like in case with Africa, for Christian missionaries, it was easier to convert Americans into their religion through exploitation of the idea of the Great Spirit. Australian Aborigines consist of 900 tribes with diverse languages, cultures, and beliefs. Still, some common features permeate these different religious traditions. Prominent position of totemism, great significance of magic, belief in supreme tribal deities. Australian totemism is a complex phenomenon. Totems may be tribal, individual, and can even differentiate by gender. Especially prominent among Australians is the myth of the rainbow serpent, which bears the features of a totem and supreme being that controls nature and society. It is relevant to tell more about the magic elements in the traditional religion of the Australian Aborigines, who don't believe in natural death, but every death is believed to be caused by evil spirits or influenced by enemies. A kurdaicha, or ritual executioner, uses a special bone to kill his victim. Pointing the bone at the victim almost invariably results in the latter's death. Victims become listless and apathetic, usually refusing food or water, with death often occurring within days of being cursed. Australian hospitals often receive patients with such symptoms who claim to be victims of kurdaichas. In 2004, a kurdaicha even performed the ritual of bone pointing at the then acting Prime Minister of Australia, John Howard. Without giving too many details about this incident, I can only say that John Howard is still alive. The peoples of Siberia and northernmost Asia belong to Paleo-Asiatic and Altaic linguistic families. They differ in terms of languages, but share some cultural characteristics and indigenous religion. The followers of this religion believe that they are dependent on higher superhuman powers, which they have to submit themselves to and which they have to offer sacrifices to either directly or via sacrificers or shamans. They worship ancestor spirits, animated nature like plants, animals, etc., as well as natural phenomena. The sun, moon, stars, fire, water, etc. On the picture you can see the symbolic representation of ancestor spirits that in the past was kept by every native Siberian family in their yurts. Some sort of magic, witchcraft and sorcery are also parts of many nature religions. For example, to heal diseases and illnesses, or if people are convinced that a neighbor has put a curse on their families, the Siberian natives use such kind of magic rituals and means. All Siberian peoples share a common belief in animated entities in all natural objects with their own spirits. The universe is divided into three parts. I already mentioned this classical tripartite division of the world, which is common for many traditional religions and cultures. So the Siberians also divide the universe into three parts: upper, middle, and lower, each being home for various types of supernatural and natural beings. For example, human beings and animals belong to this middle world. People who claim to be able to contact these beings in the state of trance are referred to as shamans. Shamans are believed to be able to achieve trance with their power to travel to upper and lower worlds while in trance. This is the basic characteristics of real shamans. Shamans are not only can achieve the state of trance, I think that other types of religious specialists can do the same. But why shamans are unique is because they can travel to different worlds, right? Vertical worlds to upper or lower worlds. Female and male shamanisms represent two different traditions, each ascending to belief systems of early hunters and gatherers correspondingly. This brings us to the prominent native religion of Eurasian nomads known under the generic name of Tengrism. So, deification of the sky, the upper world, is another common feature of North Eurasian indigenous religious traditions. Though Tengrism has roots in ancient religions of North Asia, some researchers are convinced that it might receive influence from Chinese conception of the heaven as well. So the man is living in the center of the world, in the middle world, and thus sees his existence between the eternal blue heaven Father and Mother Earth, which is supporting and nourishing him. With the advent of European colonialism in the 15th century, Christianity is widely disseminated throughout the globe, challenging indigenous belief systems. But even before that, Buddhism and Islam undermined autochthonous religions in Asia and Africa by supplanting or assimilating them. Indigenous beliefs were subject of direct prohibition, serious restrictions, physical exterminations, persecutions, accusations, and marginalizations more than other religions in the world. It is no surprising thus that indigenous religious beliefs played a significant role in anti-colonial resistance. Even today, indigenous religions are at the forefront of anti-colonial discourse. Nowadays, this anti-colonial struggle turns into the fight against aggressive forms of capitalism, consumerism, and globalism. The cult of the blue eternal sky, followed by Turkic and Mongolian peoples, starting from the Hans, the 4th century BCE, began to revive in new philosophical interpretation in 1990s. Tengrism plays a role in the rise of post-Soviet Turkic and Mongolian nationalisms that strive to construct new identity on what national activists view as genuine religion of the Turco-Mongols. The sky is presented on the flags of some Eurasian nations, like those of Kazakhstan and Sakha-Yakutia. Some adherents of Tengrism present Islam and Tibetan Buddhism as foreign to spirituality of Central Eurasian nomads. Others prefer to say about unique synthesis between Tengrism and one of the world religions. Modern Tengrism is a reconstruction and interpretation of the set of beliefs that had currency among Turkic and Mongolian peoples. Tengrist ideologists claim the following characteristics are essential for this religion. A. Worship of Tengri as the unpersonified supreme deity. B. Belief in Mother Earth, Umay Etugen. C. Belief in the vital energy, Kut or Sulde. And D. Worship of ancestor spirits, Arwah, Ongon, etc., that can serve as assistants and protectors. It is typical for many modern proponents of Tengrism to idealize pre-Islamic or pre-Buddhist life of Turco-Mongols and use modern esoteric vocabulary in their discourse. Aron Atabek, Kazakh poet and active adherent of Tengrism, in 2008 was imprisoned for 18 years under accusations of causing disorder and killing a policeman. In one of his books, he claimed that what happens when someone being a part of his ethnic group, nation, and ethnic religion prays in his own ethnic language to his ethnic native genetic gods. For instance, when a Kazakh Turk worships Tengri, the Kazakh god Tengri, receiving impulse of mystic energy of the heart of the Kazakh Turkic ethnic group, reacts automatically and sends him energy, wellness back to his Kazakh Turkic people. But if a Kazakh prays to Allah, the god of Arabs, Allah reacts immediately and sends his energy, wellness to Arab Semitic peoples. This is the universal law. Tengrism is only a part of a broader phenomenon of indigenous religion revival throughout the world. If earlier primal religions served as a foundation for anti-colonialism in Asia, Africa and America, nowadays they often take nationalist, anti-globalist and ecological connotations. Among other examples are the European neo-paganism, Russian Rodnoverie, Altai Burkhanism, Tajikistani neo-Zoroastrianism, etc. These movements are syncretic in nature. They emphasize their authenticity and antiquity. The ideologists of these movements usually come from urban intellectuals, creative circles, and political activists. In conclusion, I would like to summarize the information I've given in this lecture. Indigenous religions used to be an integral part of indigenous cultures located in specific bioregions. The expansion of world transnational religions, spread of huge empires, and later European colonialism, all this challenged indigenous religions throughout the globe. Today, the most numerous communities centered around indigenous religions can be found in sub-Saharan Africa, northernmost America, Australia, Amazonia, and Siberia. But even in the areas with established transnational religious traditions, the number of followers of revived indigenous religions grows steadily. New indigenous religions are syncretic phenomena that can serve as ideological platform for local nationalisms, anti-globalism, and environmentalism. Thank you for your attention.